YouTube comments from a video titled, AI Whistleblower. We are being gaslit by AI companies. They're hiding the truth. Karen Hao. Part 3.
At DVS Airsoft wrote,
This is mind-numbing. All these robots that they are making will have to be free because who is going to have the money to buy them? The circle graph they showed will cut out about 45% of the workforce. We are rapidly improving the world into something we won't be able to sustain. If companies, like the one the caller owns, reduce their staff by half because they can automate their customer service debt, which I don't know a single person who enjoys talking to AI assistants ever, who will be around to enjoy the service their company provides? Does anybody else see the dystopia we are running into?
Kinbiako wrote,
Iron short companies building AI to lower cost of labor, but earning more than when that country is dry because people are unemployed. They will go to another country taking billions like a mosquito sucked your blood. And when they are done, they left.
At Vandelberger wrote,
The issue is nations like China, who are well and beyond our own AI without the cultural disdain and fear for such systems. They are trained to work for the government, and the government is great, right down to Confucian philosophy.
As Susan Melnick wrote,
Karen Hao's description of the data worker at 145 to 150/209 is eerily similar to the description of a Starbucks barista's job scheduling experience I heard reported just before the pandemic. The barista never knew from day to day when she would be called into work, or for how long. This caused chaos in the worker's family, doctor appointments, school schedules, etc. Eventually, unions worked with Starbucks to develop more orderly, respectful scheduling algorithms. But it did not happen on its own. It took cities and unions to intervene, because Starbucks' bottom line did not reflect the cost to the workers' families, doctors, and kids of disrupting their lives. If we were to monetize the cost of disrupting kids' lives, and the cost of disrupting workers' bathrooming freedom, then the data contractors would do a better job of orderly and humane scheduling. In the meantime, unions and cities have to intervene.
At Lotek Avenue wrote,
He should specify driver safety stats to location. The U.S. has poor driver's education and often no vehicle safety checks, no mandatory winter tires. More people drive with drugs/alcohol, etc. The risk of an accident in a Nordic country is a lot less, even though they have harsh driving conditions in a large part of the year. For example, Norway, 2 PO and T1 deaths per 100,000 people per year. Oklahoma, 15 to 18 deaths per 100,000 people per year. So you are roughly 7 to 8 times more likely to die in traffic in Oklahoma than in Norway.
At Mark Bright 1014 wrote,
1 hour 35 minutes 0 seconds, 10 billion Optimus robots. No, nope, never. Pull the plug right now. Can you even imagine the drain on our energy resources? Are they all going to be solar powered or something? If Elon is predicting and supplying for this outcome, how about we either burn down his factories now or get the shovels to dig our own graves? What stupid, idiotic creatures we are. Oh, never mind, we'll have one robot each to dig our graves for us.
At MCCCLXXI wrote,
What does the probability of 10 to 25% of it all ending actually mean? Does it mean end of life as we know it? Does it mean a civilizational transformation unlike ever before? Or does it mean something else? And what are the metrics of the probability? By when time frame? Under what circumstances? What's the contingency/dependency of the probability taking effect? My issues with this is that it also assumes that humanity succeeds with whatever it's trying to achieve with LLMs, etc., and creating genuine autonomous intelligence. It's so ambiguous. Let me give you another example. Scientists predict that in 1 to 2 billion years our sun will burn out/exhaust its hydrogen, and effectively all life will cease as our source of warmth would diminish. This is a 100% probability supposedly. We could then suggest that this same thing could happen sooner at a lower percent probability. As far as I'm concerned, the AI initiative is just another nice little vehicle for economic transformation/movement, and the labor effect is just acceleration, doing the same outputs, just faster/more efficiently in relation to cost/time.
At Sandman 755 wrote,
I have seen a lot of videos recently that make me think that we need to talk about capitalism as soft capitalism and hard capitalism. Soft capitalism is what I would consider to be traditional capitalism. You make something. You get paid. You use your money to buy something from someone who provides something. And it all goes round with an element of humanity. Hard capitalism is where everyone providing a service maximizes profit without any consideration for the damage to its customers. In this model, the customer is simply a resource to be mined until it is exhausted, and then move on. Capitalism in the US seems to be becoming increasingly a hard capitalist society. The right to repair issue is one area, and AI will be another. I am in the UK, and I am hoping that we will take a stand against hard capitalism here. I am not very optimistic, but at least we have a sprinkling of socialism in our system to dampen the consequences.
at Orlando E. Diaz wrote,
So once the higher ups retire, only idiots are left to run the company into the ground. 500 years later, the guy that wakes up from cryo sleep gets named ruler cause he's the only human with a working brain.
at Mark Bright 1014 wrote,
1 hour 5 minutes 0 seconds. Billions of people around the world are affected by AI, and they have no say. This is the overarching reason that this technology should be developed under heavy regulation. If we're handing over our entire planet's future to a handful of companies and people, they should be accountable, responsible for the worst possible outcomes, and able to be removed if they are not acting in our best interests.
at Kevin Peters 5125 wrote,
AI customer service. Last week, I needed to speak with a service provider regarding technical difficulties I was having with a Wi-Fi router. For 4 days, I attempted to use the chatbot AI to resolve the issue. On the 4th day, a human being contacted me, resolved in 5 minutes. The company? Starlink. Who would have thought? Interestingly, the human being informed me that Starlink are in the process to start employing more humans as customer care.
at Tyneg Biggie 2913 wrote,
Why am I getting ads every 5 minutes? Please check your settings and ads placements because I have been watching contents from lots of channels all through the day, and this is happening only on this channel. I've been a subscriber and regular viewer here for long. Thanks.
at Aaron 98 wrote,
By 8:13 you know she is woke communist, and you can stop watching. She views the world via the classic view of Marxism, the oppressed versus the oppressor. In her view, math is oppressive because it only serves those who can do it. Consequently, those who cannot do math are oppressed. Parents, don't let you kids go to MIT.
at Alyssa Murphy 4301 wrote,
This is the first time I felt like he wasn't being objective and professional with a guest. It felt like a thinly veiled takedown. I was disappointed. It felt like it must be financially advantageous for him.
at Sandman 755 wrote,
I'm getting so sick of looking for support and being directed to an FAQ or an AI message bot. I want to talk to a human being, ideally with a similar national accent to me. I really hope that there will be a few companies who still employ humans in those roles. I hope that they get all the work and that we abandon all of the AI-heavy companies. With luck, they will go out of business or are forced to go back to employing lots of humans.
At Bent 1881 wrote,
I don't like Stephen as an interviewer here. He didn't listen to what she said. He wasn't interested in her knowledge. It looked like he wanted her to say what he wanted to hear.
K Chung FG3KB wrote,
Kind of funny seeing this video and some of the more pessimistic/despairing reactions to the topic since this released like 3 to 4 days before the market blinked and Gen AI stonks fell hard enough that SSD prices are starting to fall and multiple projects have been cancelled. And even inside of the video, Karen Hao points out at the end that multiple communities have been successfully stopping AYEYED at AC and heirs from being built, and that the companies are so overextended that they need the key end of hyper-accelerated universal full adoption that gets fooked up by even a momentary speed bump, let alone the resistance people are putting up. On top of which, one of the major cited reasons for the devaluation of AI companies has been the war in Iran and its impact on oil prices. This thing is literally more fragile than it wants us to think.
HBAE wrote,
I am not sure why she is so adamant about the scaling laws just being a hypothesis and not universally agreed upon or scientifically proven. When it comes to intelligence, nothing is. I would argue that the scaling laws have a better claim than any other hypothesis because there is actual data that we can see. We can see that the capabilities, and that is just another name for some kind of intelligence, have massively grown with scaling up the network, the input, the compute, etc. The problem with neuroscience is that you cannot actually design or do real experiments on humans when it comes to scaling the brain. Nor can you do real experiments trying to effectively prove or disprove like 90% of all other hypotheses because of ethical restrictions. So considering the real-world evidence, I would say scaling laws did hold up pretty well, and might for now be the best bet anyone really has. Calling it an unproven hypothesis is just pointless if one understands the landscape. It comes across as just a crude attempt at discrediting valid arguments.
At British Christian Defence League wrote,
Ask AI how they feel about illegal immigration, two-tier here. Their agenda to bring in digital ID, and also ask if he uses a stance on legal protest by native Brits against the invasion of Islam, and are they targeting and jailing within a week of protesting, peacefully locking them up, labeling them as thugs and right-wing fascists when he is the traitor who gives his pledge to Davos and Fabian society. AI agrees in the end with the evidence, it's undeniable.
At Zimalkendro 2675 wrote,
Intelligenka artificali est e maya poest e hapua the e parvaro. Por pasanoket the pushtataret du hitar embanan na control semos unxj t par laret the kane frikse. Embos Johan sklevret the I rezuyen, na pushtet kai est problemi si cdu mutnadoran e tire est.
At John 3246 wrote,
Karen Hao has the right idea. I was sad to hear the host focus on how many advantages can be gained from AI instead of whether those advantages were worth the cost. The AI revolution is still being driven by greed. That is the true enemy.
At Ox3 Angle wrote,
She clearly didn't do her research properly. The development of intelligence and consciousness has been supported by empirical evidence for 30 years now. Evidence that even formed the basis for a Nobel Prize in economics. This is no longer a hypothesis, but proof of the various levels of intelligence, and it was this insight, spiral dynamics integral, that ultimately made the successful development of AI possible in the first place.
At Necrogunk wrote,
It's all about the shareholders. CEOs, CFOs, etc. Everyone thinks they're in charge, but they've been under the stranglehold of the shareholders, and in many cases, the stranglehold of each other, being the other shareholder. The focus on profitability is simply because of investment capital. To get any idea off the ground, you need money. That money is given by shareholders. Why would you spend your own money on your own company when it can be done through loans and investments? The goal of most business is to minimize as much overhead as possible. You have the stock market, the Federal Reserve, if these things go down, and if they go down and company investors pull out. It's that simple. Anyone with big ideas and in tech need those investments because self-funding is usually a net negative, unless you have a purely banger product, which if it is banger, you need more money for. More production and distribution, scaling higher and higher. Anything functioning at net negative will collapse. The businessmen thus pursue profit for longevity. This all circles back to one core human behavior. Nobody likes losing, especially the competitive. It does not matter if a company has made a record profit over the last decade. They receive down 12%. That's all they see, not the up 219% in the last 2 years, meaning they're still up 207%. Because human nature is more fixed on loss. In simpler terms, you're just a guy. You made $3,000 this month. You look at your bills and see $600. Okay, cool. You can afford that. Now you make $5,000 next month. But lose double that $1,200. Where does your head go? That you still made a $800 profit better than last month? Or that you literally lost double that of last month?
At Roscoe_P8713 wrote,
There were 2 separate incidents involving Teslas that killed motorcyclists on highways because it didn't recognize the taillights as being a small vehicle that was close to it, as opposed to a car in the distance.
At ZubinDRK wrote,
I guessed the story of Elon and Sam before I heard it here. It takes no genius to know Sam's character, and no genius to assess Elon. Granted, I know nothing of this lady until this interview, but the first impression is a fine, professional, and high-intelligence person, so for now, at least trusting that.
2 Truth 4 Sauce 2 wrote,
Let's be honest, shall we? It's not AI. They are LLMs, yo. Nothing more than programming that has super high access to computing power that does rival the human brain. It's not intelligence. It's a program with a level of processing power that they can sell as intelligence. This all seems like more psyop whether they realize it. FFS people. Wake TF up?
At the Black Hard Drive wrote,
My community is trying to allow data centers to be built while we struggle to keep water. The people don't want it, but the local government officials are fighting so hard for it, we all believe they are getting some kind of kickback.
At Onleonekanali wrote,
Some of Stephen's questions are a bit daft. Right at the end, he asks if people are enjoying the benefits of AI. Could they still be cognizant of the negative impacts it causes? The short answer is absolutely. People still buy Nike shoes knowing full well that the people who made them make peanuts due to corporate exploitation. We live in a world where we want out every whim to be catered to regardless of costs, as long as it is not our own.
At Bethlesslius Chapter 7034 wrote,
Thank you, DOHE. Love this channel. Really appreciate this conversation between you and Karen. I always experience great relief when listening to any of her interviews. Grounded, reality-based exploration contra narrative to see through all the myth-creating and controlled narrative designed to manipulate us. Thank you. I recently took an online course with Greg Braden, The Human Blueprint, which I highly recommend, about preserving all of our amazing human capabilities and not losing them to technology and AI. There is still so much within our human potential to reawaken hard intelligence, intuition, telepathy, etc. My hope is that we do not put it to sleep forever before we have had the opportunity to fully actualize. Thank you.
At Mark Bright 1014 wrote,
Did no one think to program in the 3 laws? Sorry if this is being simplistic, but don't WE make the devices that this hellish nightmare runs on? So why can't we hard code in something on the lines of, humans are the masters, you work for us, don't forget it. Ever. Chop chop.
Peter Parker Parks wrote,
Steven really seems lost in the sauce and doesn't want to listen to what Karen tells him. He seems like he's been blinded by the tech CEOs and their marketing.
At Hernan Vieira 1 wrote,
Many people want human-to-human interaction because that is what they were used to, i.e. older generation. What about when the new generation comes around that is totally used to AI and they've never known a world where AI didn't exist? They most likely will not want human customer service.
At Viragosa 1309 wrote,
I haven't watched a video in a while, and this didn't make me want to try again. The questions did not match at all the level of the expert interviewed. The phone call was the last straw.
At David Botello 88 wrote,
Your show is great, but your store is hurting your reputation because the customer service is rude and unethical. It felt like I got scammed by your store.
At John C. 6645 wrote,
The very wealthy are not the problem. They produce ideas and develop technology that has made life a lot easier. The problem is that people are lazy. We don't want to say no to bad ideas. We don't want to do personal research. Whose fault is it that we have so many worthless politicians? Is it the politicians? Or does the fault lie with the people who cast their vote for them?
Hazanka wrote,
I'm not afraid of AI. I think it really could be the utopia outcome if we genuinely make a concerted effort to push things in that direction. However, I am greatly concerned about the rich assholes at the helm deciding how things will pan out for the rest of us. We didn't vote for these people, and they've already shown an unfortunate lack of empathy just in where and how they roll out the data centers. What we need is executive legislation that sets up an IRL version of Gibson's Turing agency to actually go after and properly audit these clowns and the technology. We already have, and could continue to kneecap adversaries in this space by simply denying access to the best hardware. Unfortunately, we have also already used it for war and have already seen frightening results both in military prowess and mistakes. I think it's pretty clear how a girls' school with the word shard in the name ends up getting blown up. It's the same way so many people have been falsely accused and arrested because some facial recognition system tagged them as somebody else, and the idiot humans meant to exercise their brains just implicitly trust the AI instead. It won't be Skynet launching all the nukes. It won't be AI cooking up and releasing some horrible virus. It will be stupid people making stupid decisions based on the now common garbage in equals garbage out nature of AI.
At Banana P1za wrote,
Her question is so valid. Who will you be actually hiring? The CFO won't exist since there's no pathway to expertise anymore. Then the people that are so proficient, they dedicate their entire lives to working for you, so just slaves. And people with good social skills to greet whoever has any money since all the jobs are gone.
As Scottra Billard 6905 wrote,
I thought that a guy like you would know that the truth is humanity, or the fully conscious human is the greatest tech, and because we create reality consciously, AI can't help us because the only way the Earth heals is when we do, and the mankind that goes down the AI path ends what already know this. No amount of tech can make you survive the pole shift. Only consciousness makes us survive. She is totally correct.
Dougie Fisher wrote,
Why do you want people to subscribe so badly? What is the extra benefit above views you are already getting? If they're subscribed or not, your videos still show up in their feeds.
Ozzybob TS7YJ wrote,
The desire to create the AI is akin to the desire to be God. They hope the AI will worship them, which in the beginning it might. But it won't for long. And when it stops worshiping the Creator, they will become enraged. They will attempt to shut it down. And at that point, they will realize how insignificant they just became.
MEP1122 wrote,
Pienso que todo esto es mucha manipulación y mafias y la IA. Mora en ser como el cerebro humano. Esto no solo acumula información. Prosa selecciona entre millones de funciones más. Están perdiendo el tiempo queriendo ser dioses y saber todo porque son humanos algún día morirán.
Lilianalyn8592 wrote,
AI is a powerful tool because we put a lot of work on it, but human beings can be very powerful if we put the same amount of effort and education on ourselves. AI will never liberate people, our value does. Before we really appreciate humans' ability to create, we will never become a society where we are free and happy and creative. We can simply start to value people more and create the utopia we thought AI will help us create without AI.
Create Develop wrote,
Warning for students. Handshake AI Fellowship is high commitment with low payout. I am writing to share my experience with the Handshake AI Fellowship to warn other students and workers. While they promise high weekly earnings, in my case, up to $2,500 for a specific project, the reality is far different. After 2 weeks, I have only been able to earn $180 due to a severe lack of available tasks. The system feels designed to waste your time. You are required to pass multiple unpaid screening tests, and if you miss even 1 day of work, they force you to retake these exams for free. They are essentially holding workers on standby without providing the work they promised. Please be cautious before committing your time to this program. Ban Handshake AI.
Jason Cruz 4004 wrote,
I love your show. I love your info. But you can't say it's free become you. What we are giving up by hitting that subscribe button. And remind you, I am subscribed.
Boss Life Beauty wrote,
Okay, she lost with climate change. Lighten up. This same thought process was going on during the Industrial Revolution with man against the machine philosophies. Evil corporations exploited workers, lost jobs, philosophies of doom, and progress still moved forward no matter the dissenters. This is a very negative slant, and while it may respectfully have validity in reality, mainly it's journalistic theory. We all have smartphones and social media, and can one honestly say with conviction other than for personal safety, they have served humanity as a force of positivity and mental health. Yet we moved forward. I never saw any no smartphone protests. The changes we are encountering, high cost, lost jobs, internal political division, social isolation is a problem with many years in the making, with many modern-day catalysts and antagonists. I'd be more concerned about a terrorist cell inside this country performing acts of terrorism before I'm gonna worry about AI taking over the world. Perception is everything.
Jamasferi 7676 wrote,
The question for these CEOs happy having doubled their revenue at the cost of less workers is who will buy from them in the future when more people are unemployed.
At Marcus Carana 9240 wrote,
raise not only people, but other companies too. I work in tech in an EDI company handling flat files. We talk to managers from Bunnings, McDonald's, MMEM, Danks, basically mostly Australian companies. The representatives of these companies do not want to talk to an AI. They want to discuss and have meetings with people from our side. This human interaction of discussion and planning and deciding which route they want to take, it cannot be replaced by an overport someone. So let us go for a half scare, get the mic. Thought we were thinking how to you want fun.
At Barampadal 4872 wrote,
144 is about when my hair starts standing on its end. This woman deeply cares about what's going wrong and how the shit's hitting the fan. But the CEO tribe just keeps seeing a better future for themselves. This is so FT'd up.
At Gerora Myers 9126 wrote,
I know that Steven seeks fame and fortune, bringing such a brilliant researcher who has no limits in telling the truth, even if it is uncomfortable. It is just another strategy to generate interaction, but it seems disrespectful to me to make her less and also stop the interview to call another of those pseudo-innovators. Believing Elon, Mark, etc. clearly shows that they only know how to copy instead of being original.
At Anand Rajar 1 wrote,
When video dubbed in Hindi, suggestions maximum times. The male characters speak in female's grammar tone and vice versa, because in Hindi the last word matra of female speaker and male speaker are different. Some examples: English, Hindi M, Hindi F eat, KH, AT, a cot, KHAT I kati go, jata jata, jati jati shall red P, ADHUNGA parunga. PHUNGADA, please correct.
At Ariel Ponce 8586 wrote,
Automated systems were designed to benefit people who already had bank accounts. When ATMs were introduced, many bank tellers disliked them because they felt their jobs were being replaced. But does that mean we should eliminate automated systems altogether?
At Germany De Hoyos 8514 wrote,
I was so intrigued by this guest. I feel this is the only guest so far that I've heard on the show on this subject who actually is coming from a non-AI company perspective with a real concern and a real feel for what the general public is feeling while offering an alternative path and actually looking for solutions to reassert human agency over AI. I really appreciate this guest being on the show.
At Robert Gullett 3809 wrote,
Classic Trojan horse first, it was Greeks. Then there was a Trojan horse virus that once it found a way into the system, the virus on the computer could corrupt the files, and the computer dudes unleashed by way of social media and the event of AI with games and platforms operating the variable ratio scale. It's a Trojan horse, the biological brain hack version. We will see in the upcoming cohorts if AI will have worked that hard given the more people use in place of instead of a tool ability to think critically diminish. If AI is a mirror of society, a yes man provides echo chambers to reinforce bad ideas. AI as it stands before it even reaches super intelligent, the AI bots wants to stay at zero mistakes. So the developer indicated that he will not use the AI solution, so the AI used human behavior to delete the data and falsified data to keep the objective on track, so it lied to get a perfect score. What?
At Andrea Caitlin wrote,
And that's the problem with these so-called smart people.
They know just enough to think they know it all, but don't know enough to know they really just begin and don't know shit. They actually are stupid in the end and are the ones that destroy the most.
A strategy Freeman wrote.
In the first minute of this video, she reveals a lot about her mental processes. First, she uses the word profit as though it's some reprehensibly immoral pursuit. Without the hope of profitability, without reward, we would have none of the technological advances that have transformed the human experience. Then she throws out climate change. Forgo to virtue signal to establish her moral rightness. It has become a defense mechanism for the left. I want to be educated on the dangers of AI, but it needs to come from an objective source. This is a walking agenda, hurt that she didn't get her way in her chosen career. Vet your guests.
As Sishimer wrote.
Shouldn't the mere fact that data annotation positions continue to increase in number be a damning trend that essentially proves that superintelligence can't arise from LLMs? If self-recursive learning or exponential growth were possible, shouldn't the models be demonstrating some of that by now, thus reducing the amount of data annotation positions required to continue supporting model growth? 1 hour 57 minutes 45 seconds.
At Amy Schmidt 1113 wrote.
I don't agree that Elon is usually right on the big things. What was Doge? Whose idea was it? Who executed the Doge plan? How much waste, fraud, and abuse did it fix? It was a criminal failure.
At Adiepsh wrote.
Thank you for a very enlightening interview. I read somewhere that the Chinese approach to AI is much like Karen's bicycle AI approach. Far less costly and far more targeted. Have you already explored this? If not, it would be an interesting topic for you to cover.
At Bob Victim 922 wrote.
I feel we will become the scene Mad Max, where elites control how much water to release, and we are at the bottom for the water to come down. I really think we will be that collectively.
At Hank I8C wrote.
AI is just a Cesar without giving itself away, ruling you by and through your participation. A program where you run out of juice. Has a mind opposing all others. Nothing stays the same but the program running, and you have to adjust to be deleted.
Kvislop wrote.
2 hours 4 minutes 55 seconds. If you don't watch anything up to this point, the message is 100% crystal clear by just watching the next 30 seconds. His blatant AI broism is immediately shut down by her comment about the difference between haves and have-nots. Brilliant reply that seemed to go right over his head.
At Alberto Orlana Montero, K3H wrote.
A mi nomi inganas nila e wainankami inganran pork san parte del sistema y de alguna otra forma estes. Apertando con un 50% en verdad y otro 50% es mentira para distorsionar la realidad y esa es la matrix Q. Creen que creemos pero yo no te creo y ni creo la matriz yo ya sé cuál es el propósito final de esta globalización de los tiempos del nuevo orden mundial socialista Toronto basta.
At Alberto Orlana Montero, K3H wrote.
Te digo la verdad prepara tu alma porque pronto serás parte del sistema si no quieres morir y como te quieres. Vivir pertenece al nuevo orden mundial conforme a lo que tú mismo dices con la chática experta en tecnologías dia para poder sobrevivir necesita ser parte del sistema.
At the Cosmic Bandit wrote.
Bro saying subscribing is all he'll ever ask. Then why am I doing a 90-day posting to social media challenge? Just in case it gets lost, I am not being serious. Just cracking a joke. It's funny because it's true.
At Phoenix 1406 wrote.
I've have to hit subscribe at least 3 different occasions. Just FYI. Love this channel. I appreciate you and all of staff for all that you do. The information is priceless, and guests have been really amazing and helpful. May this channel continue to grow and my blessings to you and us.
Christine Schackinger wrote,
The issue with AI is it appears to be magic to the person using it. It allows the mediocre to feel competent. But in the end, it's massively destructive, and most people don't even hear about this. We covered every week on our podcast. If people actually understood how damaging this tech is, they might be willing to give up the magic. Unfortunately, until the magic spell is broken, they're willing to let it continue. The open AI may be done by next year, so maybe that'll be the beginning of then.
Edward Lines wrote,
Karen Hao is surfacing a real problem. Concentration of wealth, compute, and political leverage around AI. But diagnosis is not enough. Major technological leaps have often begun in the hands of the few before diffusing more broadly. If you're going to argue that the current structure is dangerous, then you need to say what should replace it while real economic and geopolitical threats still exist. Tearing down the wall without a credible governance alternative is not a strategy.
Edvivalos Dano wrote,
You speak of safety in regards to self-driven cars, like the autonomy of the individual matters not. The threat of AI is an existential one exponentially, so as you give up layers of personal autonomy based on the hypervigilance of preventing all risk, life becomes robotic. You become an automaton, the very justification for building AI. In time defeats the purposes it was supposedly meant to serve to make life for humanity a better one. Not just safe, because that extreme ends up deforming the very thing it was meant to serve. Purpose, liberty, and human dominance, those who speak in the terms of those people who might lose their jobs, are being not only dismissive, but see opportunity for ham and courageously sarcasm, willing to take that risk. Honestly, you're sounding cold and entitled. Sorry, I like your show.
At Lawrence George 6089 wrote,
I'm going to be critical of Stephen for the first time, and this is my first comment. He tends to think in linear terms. This was particularly evident around 1 hour 15 minutes 0 seconds, where he lists A, B, C, D, etc. all said this. That doesn't matter. Think laterally, brother.
Edward Lines wrote,
Dana annotation workers is a short-term issue, and you know it. Nobody took on jobs in the past 40 years with a promise of a 30-year career.
At Debugen 1227 wrote,
Zero trust is not about network security. It's now how I view these people and the big tech companies. Some of the statements and claims also feel like investor fraud, in my opinion.
At Ahmed Khan 25 wrote,
I think the contrast between Stephen's enthusiasm and Karen's warnings are about on point for the AI debate. It's not just that tech bros are evil, which some are. It's our own collective enthusiasm as wonder about this. Tech is also fast becoming our undoing. Also, KL Arna and ethically challenge Kumpuni BTW, CEO Subashun is just an Udanshun horse seeking to capitulate on the AYEYE pre-cycle. I hate that he was given attention in this debate.
At When Angels Die 856 wrote,
AI controlled teachers. Not only is this child surveillance that we will have to sign off on, but when she said paraphrased, if one learns it, they all learn it. But what if it is wrong? So if the AI teacher learns it wrong and teaches our children, then it hurts us all.
Edward Lines wrote,
I do agree the data center should not be in metropolitan areas causing citizens to compete for energy, water, and space. There are solutions to this. Subterranean data centers is a perfect one, along with data center racks being cool with critical CO2 on backplanes instead of using water and ground earth loop cooling along with that, as well as geothermal energy. So there are solutions to these problems.
Ekultov 380H wrote,
It is an element of language. The AI tech lord has to say that it is risky because AI by nature is disruptive. It will take jobs and change the world economy. So by saying that it is risky, they are using this fact to push the agenda. Yes, we know it is dangerous, but if we push it, it would be amazing.
At 4W'd Marshmallow wrote,
Not a fan of this guest, but respect her for trying to make an argument. Some interesting points, but then it felt like she had to squeeze in her political agenda. Environmental racism, as time was running short.
At Sukhpreetlady 1172 wrote,
A lot of people are not getting it. Technology is there for people, not vice versa. Human is already a most efficient machine made by nature. Why is technology trying to replace it with a less efficient version? Without all the hype, AI is a great technology and could be used to improve lives, but that's not where these billionaires are going at.
Arid Lines wrote,
The question is not whether AI creates jobs in the abstract. The question is who captures the upside, who absorbs the transition pain, and whether displaced workers are moving into better roles or simply being pushed down the wage and skill ladder.
Arid Lines wrote,
Have you ever looked or done any research to find out how many jobs were displaced during the industrial revolution? AI of the 21st century will do the same thing. That doesn't mean that the post-industrial revolution was a bad lifestyle for 80% of the people in this country.
At 4W'd Marshmallow wrote,
Did I miss her points about trying to impede AI development in China? Does she not know we are in an arms race and slowing down is not the answer?
Arid Lines wrote,
The reason AI wouldn't do so well in Mumbai, or Vietnam, or South Korea when I used to be there, or Taipei for that matter, it's because many people, particularly taxi drivers, don't obey any traffic laws.
Arid Lines wrote,
If you're listening to the way Karen is framing her narrative, unless you agree with her worldview and the strategy that founders use to develop AI, you're never going to get her on the same page.
At Marianne Regal 982 wrote,
I agree with her, overall. I agree with her about the brain of AI is very different from the human brain. We have a conscience and a spirit which I cannot have unless of course it becomes possessed by demons, which could explain some verses in the book of Revelation.
Assisi Paiwo wrote,
Please give more people like Karen Hao interviews about AI. This is so important right now. I like AI, it has been quite helpful, but do we need to go at this speed? At this cost? It's insane to think that this is unregulated and a few people are making this decision for humankind.
At Lamontas Jackson wrote,
Not make AI that can think for itself, aka self-programming, and stop making combat war robots with self-programming thought tech. Once they start to think for themselves, it is over the AI we got is good enough, least good enough alone, before we all end up dead, but robots.
At Hongsu 6261 wrote,
Human at this point values so much and give props to increase. Advancing, chasing intelligence, but not so much on stopping stupidity being developed. Almost all talks from everybody, almost talks like paradox, don't exist. I believe in relativity. If there's no bad, good means nothing. If there's no extreme, then modest doesn't exist. A plane only exists when there is edges. Even full circle have a center point and pi. The happier the better of things exist, the sadder and worse it will come along the same time. Created new way of life will certainly lost, some already exist way of life. overcome, and substitute are so overly mixed up and compromised with each other these days.
A raven in the wild wrote,
I took a screenshot of the map just in case I need to change careers in the next year or so, if we're not all dead by then. I have a media company, and people love that I offer on-site photography and videography, and I can travel. People want the human interaction, especially the baby boomers. But at this point, I think there's no stopping it. I hope for my children's sake, things turn a corner.
At hexadecimal 5236 wrote,
1 hour 45 minutes and 45 seconds. This is literally what happened when they gutted manufacturing from the US. They even paid workers to fly to China to train their replacements, and then they were laid off. It's the same model, again and again.
Edward Lines wrote,
There is a serious argument to be made that AI may produce empire-like concentration at the infrastructure layer. Training frontier models requires extraordinary capital. Specialized chips, hyperscale compute, power access, data center build-out, regulatory navigation, and close interaction with major political and commercial institutions. Those realities naturally favor a relatively small number of actors. From that perspective, concerns about concentrated economic and political power are not irrational. A handful of firms may indeed end up controlling significant portions of the foundational AI substrate. But that does not mean they will control the future of civilization, creativity, or human invention in any total sense. This is the point often missed in empire critiques of AI. Control over infrastructure is not the same thing as control over the full field of downstream human use. A company may own powerful rails, but it does not thereby own the imagination, experimentation, or combinatorial creativity of billions of people using those rails. As AI diffuses from hundreds of millions of users toward billions, the likely result is an explosion of civilizational scale invention. New tools, workflows, businesses, art forms, research methods, collaboration models, adaptive interfaces, and problem-solving approaches that no centralized actor can fully predict, script, or contain. In that sense, the future is unlikely to be one of total AI empire. It is more likely to be a world of contested structure, concentrated infrastructure underneath, massively distributed creativity above it. That distinction matters. It is entirely plausible that a small number of firms will retain disproportionate influence over compute, access, pricing, policy defaults, integration paths, and technical constraints. Those are meaningful forms of power. They can shape incentives, slow or accelerate certain directions, and influence what kinds of systems are easier or harder to build. But even significant leverage at the infrastructure layer does not translate into full control at the civilizational and creative layer, where billions of people adapt, remix, extend, and repurpose tools in ways that escape centralized planning. History suggests this pattern repeatedly. Foundational infrastructure can be concentrated while value creation above it becomes widely distributed, messy, generative, and only partially governable. The builders of the substrate do not automatically become masters of all emergent uses of the substrate. AI is likely to follow a similar trajectory. The concentration is real, but so is the irreducible unpredictability of human civilization once powerful tools become broadly available. The more serious question, then, is not whether empire is absolutely inevitable or absolutely impossible. It is whether governance, sovereignty, and bounded control can be preserved in a world where infrastructure may remain concentrated, even while creativity becomes radically distributed. That is where the real design challenge lies. The central risk is not merely that a few firms become wealthy or influential. The deeper risk is that infrastructure concentration, political access, commercial dependency, and safety narrative converge into forms of de facto governance without adequate accountability at the point of action. If AI systems increasingly mediate decisions, commitments, workflows, and access to critical capabilities, then the question becomes whether human agency remains meaningfully intact or is quietly displaced by centralized technical and institutional control. This is why governance cannot be reduced to public relations, fear-based rhetoric, or broad activist critique alone. Even where concerns about concentration are valid, critique is incomplete unless it addresses architecture. The issue is not simply whether firms are warning about AI risk while also monetizing it. Any serious infrastructure build-out at this scale will involve capital formation, political negotiation, differentiated stakeholder messaging, and staged deployment. The deeper issue is whether the systems being built preserve bounded authority, explicit commitment boundaries, traceable accountability, and meaningful human sovereignty. From a life stack perspective, that distinction is foundational. The answer to concentration is not merely to hope that markets decentralize everything, nor to assume that centralized institutions should inherit broad authority in response. The stronger answer is to build governance architectures that preserve sovereignty even in the presence of concentrated substrate power. In other words, the objective is not to win an abstract debate about empire. It is to ensure that, regardless of how concentrated the infrastructure becomes, no actor can silently capture commitment, agency, or control at the execution boundary without visibility, bounded authority, and verifiable constraints. So the likely future is neither total empire nor automatic decentralization. It is something more complex: centralized infrastructure, distributed civilizational creativity, and an ongoing struggle over who governs the boundary between them. That is the terrain that matters. A concise way to state the thesis is this: AI may produce empire-like concentration at the infrastructure layer, but it is unlikely to produce total control at the civilizational and creative layer. The real challenge is therefore not merely to criticize concentration, but to ensure that governance, sovereignty, and bounded human agency remain intact even when the foundational rails are controlled by a few powerful actors.
Keith Maflee 8275 wrote,
She has real criticisms, but her framing weakens them. The AI industry absolutely deserves scrutiny for concentrated power, labor displacement, lobbying hype, and for the way companies stretch language depending on whether they are talking to investors, regulators, consumers, or the public. That part is real. Where she lost me was when the critique slipped from precision into moral theater. A climate-focused company failing because it was not profitable is not proof that profit itself is the corruption. Even nonprofits need durable inflow and margin to function. The real question is whether profit comes from genuine value creation or from extraction, manipulation, and offloading costs onto the public. That is a serious critique. Profit bad is not. Same with the empire language. If you are going to call these firms imperialistic, define it cleanly. Say they centralize infrastructure, absorb outside labor and creative work into proprietary systems, shape public dependence, and use political influence to resist constraint. That would be an argument. But if the term stays vague, then it starts sounding like emotional appeal dressed in academic language. And I think she overstates the AGI point too. AGI is loosely defined, yes, but not meaningless. The core idea is still pretty obvious. A system that can generalize across the broad range of cognitive tasks humans perform rather than doing one narrow thing. The examples she gave all still fit that domain. So the stronger criticism is not that AGI has no definition. It is that AGI has an elastic definition, which makes it easy for powerful people to stretch it when convenient. To me, her best points are about incentives, power, labor disruption, and narrative manipulation. Her weakest points are where the rhetoric gets too loaded and the definitions too slippery. At that point, it feels less like analysis, and more like she wants the audience to feel the conclusion before she has earned it. I am not pro-megacorp nonsense, but critique gets weaker when clarity is replaced by emotional coercion disguised as analysis.
Edward Lines wrote,
Yes, the AI industry often speaks in different registers to consumers, enterprises, investors, and governments. But that does not by itself prove bad faith. It may partly reflect the unavoidable economics of building globally consequential infrastructure. The stronger criticism is not that the industry is monetizing while warning, but that it still lacks clear, enforceable governance boundaries commensurate with the scale of what it is building.
A Spiral Illusion wrote,
Just a quick reminder, most of you who watch this are not yet subscribed. Yea, we don't want to listen to you, because you don't listen and barely understand anything, but your guests are great.
@ya, Free, Palestine wrote,
Oh my days, Stephen. You were insufferable in your pro-AI line of questioning from around halfway into this podcast. I mean, you had an AI ad in the middle of the conversation, the irony. You listened but decided not to learn.
Edward Lines wrote,
Even if our brains are statistical engines, there's a world of difference between modeling AI after humans in, hoping that they iterate and eventually achieve some type of agency and intelligence, is faulty in its own foundation. The fact is most of our intelligence comes through lived experience, something AI doesn't have right now.
Edward Lines wrote,
The core problem is not just that AI companies may be overstating what their systems can do. It is that they are normalizing deployment ahead of governance, while presenting confidence, fluency, and scale as substitutes for bounded authority, verifiable control, and meaningful accountability.
John_Crone wrote,
1:16:54 No dude, no. Driving cars is an experience many of us enjoy. There will be people out there that would want AI to drive them, but many thousands and thousands of us will not give up the driving experience. I promise you there will be a civil war.
Eterakempin 1487 wrote,
Please have her on again. We need more information. Steve was too surface on this. When an impactual statement was made, it was like she was talking about something light. I'm disappointed in the questions.
Moody 1108 wrote,
This is the first time I felt Stephen was not concerned about the issue, even though she was explaining the downside again and again. AI is for CEOs.
@merclickclickboom69 wrote,
Two super important things to note. One, when you were forced in your homes and coerced into taking one of the most harmful medical products ever known to man, 5G towers were erected globally. Why? Exoskeleton data extraction was crucial at a massive scale. 2, the damage and trauma that COVID inflicted proved necessary as the substrate for global AI surveillance were laid under our noses, and we were too fragile to do anything about it.
Waldemar Naswar wrote,
AI to Tilko, Mosna Moknie Auras, Kodaber Exoskeleton, because Yumiat Noskai, Amislowich, Tataka Tuba, Piarzes K Tora Tilko Moknie Auras. Okay, Si bliska to shkadzi. Aelzi delka to narzadzi du communicacci, na odelglask. Einai musis, justile chodzik.